Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us on this edition of News 2. I'm Sandra Gumansing. While Liberty Day events have been canceled, the legacy of D. Hamilton Jackson still echoes within the halls of Virgin Islands history. Jackson advocated for labor and press liberties during the time of Danish rule. His efforts elevated the quality of life back then, and now we continue to honor a great Virgin Islander today. Richard Dorsey reports.
Liberty Day, locally known as Bull and Bread, is a time to honor David Hamilton Jackson. Jackson served the people of St. Croix as an educator, an editor, a labor leader, a lawyer, and a legislator. Liberty Day events in Estate Grove Place at the D. Hamilton Jackson Park are often seen with residents sharing their stories about social issues as well as political statements made by public figures.
Son of the soil, D. Hamilton Jackson's ideas and advocacy are responsible for so much of our socio-economic and political progression in the 20th century.
Today is the day of liberty and the day that we look out for honor the work of D. Hamilton Jackson and his work and his leadership not only of the free press, but also his work in labor, in fighting for those who work hard and struggle and try to do what they can to raise and take care of their families.
Jackson helped to organize the first labor union on the island of St. Croix, called the St. Croix Labor Union. The union allowed laborers to use organized protests and discussions for seeking better working conditions and higher wages in place of the physical uprisings of the past. In late 1915, Jackson presented before the Danish Parliament the working conditions of the Virgin Islands people and advocated for higher wages and health benefits. Jackson published the first free press publication on St. Croix, the Herald. Jackson served as an editor of the newspaper and used it as a voice for the people to expose corruption and to educate the laboring class. Richard Dorsey, News 2.
Well, Virgin Islanders in the territory can reflect on the many accomplishments of D. Hamilton Jackson and move his legacy forward by trying to improve the lives of others. Well, Governor Kenneth Mapp also reacted in a press release. He shared that as we remember the life and times of this outstanding Virgin Islander, we give thanks for his tireless efforts to advance self-determination and human rights throughout the Danish West Indies and later the U.S. Virgin Islands. The governor said his efforts to ensure that residents of the territory were granted American citizenship and all the rights and privileges thereof are particularly notable as we count on the assistance from the federal government to aid in our recovery from Hurricanes Irma and Maria. Well, normally all schools and government offices are closed on November 1st in honor. However, school days lost to the recent hurricanes had to be made up, so classes were in session. Government offices, however, were closed today. Rent abatement is defined as a provision that in the event a property is damaged, the landlord will allow the tenant to suspend paying rent until the property is repaired and the tenant can resume operations. Well, abatements have been offered to government housing communities, but privately ran communities are still at the mercy of their leasing companies and or landlords. While not all homes were damaged during hurricanes Irma and Maria, some residents are unhappy with the options they have been given, especially since they are experiencing some hardships. News 2's Stephanie Brown reports.
The Virgin Islands is in its recovery from the impact of Hurricanes Irma and Maria, but residents that rent from private, government, and subsidized apartments have reported that their living situations are uncomfortable and even uninhabitable. Some roofs in the Lorraine Village apartments were compromised due to Hurricane Maria, and as a result, black mold has been growing on their walls. Black mold can cause health effects associated with the respiratory system, which includes chronic coughing, sneezing, irritated eyes, as well as chronic fatigue and rashes. Lorraine Village residents expressed anger shortly after Maria when they received written letters informing that they were still responsible for a full month's rent in September. However, Senator VLA posted on his Facebook page that he spoke to the property's manager and residents would be giving a rent abatement for September, October, and November. And further, the post read, if you already paid, you will be given a credit. The Virgin Virgin Islands Housing Authority informed recently that they are applying 100% of abatement for its tenants for the month of October, November, and December. But residents at the privately ran Pepper Tree Terrace that was heavily impacted by the storm informed that they were told that they were responsible for rent in September to date.
If the tenant is staying there, if they're staying there, then the home must be livable of some sort. Some homes have a shingle came off and some water comes in. Now, if a tree is in your house and you can't live in your house, then of course you don't have to pay rent there. But if you're staying there, and we're in the process of fixing it. In all fairness, then you know.
One Pepper Tree resident informed that they would like to move, however, finding housing was difficult. For News 2, I'm Stephanie Shalana Brown.
In other news, the general manager of the Buccaneer Hotel on St. Croix, which her family has owned and operated since 1947, has been praised for leading a successful $25 million capital renovation of every aspect of the Buccaneer Resort while maintaining the property's authenticity and cultural heritage. As part of the recovery of the Virgin Islands, the Buccaneer Hotel began receiving regular guests today. And further, a staple sporting event put on by the resort will be taking place this weekend. Here's more.
So I'm very pleased to say that the Buccaneer has been open for business before, during, and after Hurricane Maria, but today we're welcoming our regular tourist guests coming back to the resort, and some of them to the island of St. Croix for the first time. We have all of our facilities open, our golf course, our tennis courts, the spa, all of our restaurants, and our beaches are open and ready to welcome visitors. You know, I feel so grateful that Hurricane Maria and Irma didn't give St. Croix the sort of devastating blow that other islands experienced. And when you look around the island and you see how beautiful and green it is, and how businesses are back open, and restaurants and shops are back open for business, it just makes you feel so incredibly grateful that that we can be getting back to business as usual. So this weekend we have our St. Croix Coral Reef Swim. It's our 21st annual event. It's a 5-mile swim from Buck Island to the Mermaid Beach here at the Buccaneer. We also have a 2-mile and a 1-mile event. I started this event years ago, and today we welcome visitors from around the world and all over the region and the territory.
That is great news. Thanks for that, Ms. Armstrong. Now, turning the attention to the cruise ships, here in St. Thomas, the Seabourn Odyssey will be pulling into port at the Waco dock. The Seabourn Odyssey is a cruise ship for Seabourn Cruise Lines. The capacity is 450 passengers, the crew 335. But then on Sunday, the Viking Sea will be making her maiden voyage. Also at the Waco dock, a plaque and keys ceremony will be held on board to welcome this ship, making its first cruise call to St. Thomas. Flags will be exchanged as well as plaques and a brief ceremony with Captain Bent Ivar Gangdal. NV Viking Sea, classified as a small cruise ship, was built by Italian shipbuilders for Viking Ocean Cruises. Capacity is 930 passengers, crew of 550, port of registry, Bergen, Norway. So we welcome them to the Virgin Islands. Now, meanwhile, looking over to St. Croix, in mid-October, Governor Mapp announced in his recovery news briefing that Saturday, November 11th, is the official date in which Virgin Islands will reopen for cruise traffic, with St. Croix expecting to receive at least 90 calls for the cruise season, more than double the number of calls scheduled before Hurricanes Irma and Maria struck the territory. Governor Mapp commended the Department of Tourism, the Virgin Islands Water and Power, and other public and private sector, the partners, for preparing the territory to welcome the cruise visitors for the season. According to the Virgin Islands Port Authority, cruise ship scheduled on November 5th, the Summit Cruise Line will visit St. Croix on Sunday, November 19th. The Summit Cruise Line will again make dock up. And then on Monday, November 27th, the Jewel of the Seas, that's scheduled to visit St. Croix. The following day, on Tuesday, November 28th, the Serenade of the Seas will visit both St. Croix and St. Thomas. In December, ships will port on St. Croix on December 11th, 13th, 25th, and the 31st. In January of 2018, 5 calls will be made. Those dates are on January 8th, 9th, 14th, 22nd, and 30th. Be sure to count on News 2. Stay tuned, and we will continue to keep you updated on those cruise ship schedules. Well, representing the St. Thomas St. John Chamber of Commerce, Richard Berry, a past chamber president, he met with the bipartisan congressional delegation in the territory to survey the hurricane damages, and we shared that. That's when House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy, House Democratic Whip Steny Hoyer, and Congressman Rob Bishop, Virgin Islands Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett, and other key members of the United States Congress met with the invited community leaders at the Juana Fluie Cardiac Center in St. Croix. Now, on the Chamber's list of discussion points were specific plans they hope to take place, including placing the electrical distribution system underground and establishing a microgrid of solar and wind generation units, environmentally sound gasification plan for the landfill, and a long-term waste management solution and viable recycling program. On St. Thomas, they say the dredging of the inner and outer harbor is crucial to future growth of the cruise industry. The Chamber also emphasized the critical need for Congress to offer benefits that will encourage investments in the VI, enact legislation that will provide the same percentage of Medicare and Medicaid funding as provided to the states, also provide a path for Virgin Islands hospitals to recover unfunded medical care provided to the uninsured. They would like intervention as well on behalf of the island of St. John with the Virgin Islands National Park to facilitate the extension of the Canal Bay Resort lease. Well, earlier today, a plane carrying representatives from the UJA Federation of New York, they landed at the Cyril Lee King Airport at the St. Thomas Jet Center, to be exact, and they brought some much-needed supplies for the hospital. They brought about 1,000 tetanus vaccines and a large amount of other prescription medications that were requested by the hospital. The plane was met at the airport by representatives from the hospital and a truck, and then they headed to the hospital and then to the St. Thomas Synagogue. Here's more.
The community of New York has come together to provide support for the people in the Caribbean impacted by the hurricane. We were delighted to be able to fly down today to bring a plane load of supplies that we acquired in partnership with the AFIA Foundation and the Greater New York Hospital Association. We distributed the supplies first to the Jewish community so that they could then utilize those supplies to help the poorest people in St. Thomas in need of urgent humanitarian support, as well as to be able to provide supplies directly to the Schneider Regional Medical Center so that we could ensure that they have the appropriate medicines necessary for them to provide the medical care needed in the community today.
And we are working very closely with the UJA Federation of New York and the Greater New York Hospital Association to get as many of the supplies that we're being asked for from the Regional Medical Center, from the Jewish community. We are gathering lists and seeing what matches what we have in inventory, and then we're packing planes and getting them to people who need these supplies. Today, we delivered 1,000 doses of the DTaP, the tetanus vaccine, and so the regional center will now have those vaccines to distribute to the community.
I'm really delighted to be enabled by the UJA Federation and other organizations and foundations to extend our hand. This congregation has always been an integral part of this community, and now in partnership with Rotary, the Indian Association, with the St. Thomas Reformed Church down the street, the Salvation Army, the Red Cross, the dozens of other organizations that are helping in this recovery, both in terms of lifting our spirits, but also all the material needs of our neighbors. We're very grateful for the help from this entire hemisphere and indeed around the world.
Thanks to the team for that very worthy donation. Well, stick around. Your NEWS2 AccuWeather forecast is coming up next in a little bit, but right now let's take a look at the eye in the economy. We can see the Dow up, NASDAQ down, S&P 500 up 4. Coming up on NEWS2, a message from the Army Corps of Engineers as they remind you of that deadline coming up on Friday and where the sites are to sign up. That and more, including the WAPA restoration update, coming up next. Well, FEMA's registration deadline for Hurricanes Irma and Maria have been extended to December 18th. Now, survivors can register for FEMA assistance by calling 1-800-621-3362 or by going online to www.disasterassistance.gov. Now, the SBA has been partnering with FEMA at the registration sites, but they say a new separate site will be opening up very soon just for the SBA, and that should help alleviate some of the long lines at these sites. Here's more.
When you register with FEMA, you may very well be referred to SBA, and it's kind of important for you to pay attention to that and to complete and return the application in order to keep the process of federal assistance moving forward. If you are referred and you get an application and you don't return it, that's the end of the story right there. Nothing further is going to come your way from the federal assistance to help you recover. What the SBA offers, it is basically affordable, long-term, low-interest loans to get the money in your hands to do the repairs to the damage that happened during the hurricanes. So, for example, if you didn't have insurance and you had damage to your home, you should apply for an SBA loan. If you had insurance but it isn't enough, you should also apply for an SBA loan. If you're a renter and you don't even own a home, but your property, including your vehicle, was damaged, you should again apply for an SBA loan. Thing that isn't obvious at first glance is that if you apply as you should, and for some reason, perhaps your monthly situation, your financial situation indicates that a loan would be a burden for you, SBA will refer you back to FEMA for other assistance, which could be a grant to help you get back on your feet again. So it's very important, if you are referred, to just follow the steps, complete your application and return it. And there's 3 ways that you can do that. You can do it online at sba.gov/disaster, or you can go call 800-659-2955, or the best way, the recommended way, is to go to a disaster recovery center where you'll find FEMA. If you haven't registered, you can register there with FEMA, and you can work with one of our customer service reps. Our team is on site, and they can help you with the application.
Well, as the Army Corps of Engineers prepare to wrap up, they remind you about that deadline coming up. And that deadline is on Friday. The Army Corps Right of Entry form collection deadline is Friday, November 3rd. Although that mission is over come Friday, they still have other missions in store, including the debris removal. The process includes separating the piles into different groups, then taking it to the site. Here's more on what happens once that's there.
We're part of the debris mission. We're going cleaning right-of-ways up on the island, and of course making sure that we stay within our standard and cleaning up the roadsides for the people of the Virgin Islands. Right now we are at the Cankering field site, and this is where all the contractors bring in all their debris that they've removed, and they bring it here and dispose of it here. We'll take everything from the metal, and then we'll also take vegetation, and then we'll take also household debris that was damaged during the storm. The contractor has a shredder, and what he'll do is he'll take the vegetation and they'll start what we call mulching or chipping. So he'll shred that up into small wood pieces, and then that way it can be used as a recyclable material. The main thing is we want to be very environmentally friendly. So all the material we can use for recyclables, that's what we'll try to do with it.
Lots of work there. Good job, guys. Well, meanwhile, if you're going to try to catch that deadline on Friday, you still have time. And here is a reminder of where the Blue Roof registration sites are. On St. Croix, survivors may sign up at the Disaster Recovery Center in the old post office building at Church and Company Streets, Christiansted. That's from 9 to 5. The Department of Public Works in Estates Anna's Hope in Christiansted, 12 to 4, Monday through Friday. The Disaster Recovery Center at Rotary Club West in Estate LaGrange, Frederickstead, 9 to 5. The Mobile Command Vehicle at Sunshine Mall, Kmart West. and at Frederickstead from 11 a.m. to 4. In St. Thomas, survivors may visit Department of Public Works and Sub-Base 9 to 1, Monday to Friday. Department of Health and Hospital Ground, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., Monday through Friday. The 22 Fire Station in Anna's Retreat, 9 to 1, Monday to Friday. The Government Employees Retirement System building on the first floor, Comprinson's Gata, 9 to 1, Monday to Friday. In St. John, survivors may visit the Legislature Annex in Cruz Bay, 9 to 1, also Monday to Friday. Well, here's the latest on the WAPA's restoration efforts from John Grio.
On St. Thomas Tuesday, WAPA's reconstruction and restoration crews energized additional customers in Hospital Ground, Estate Thomas, and along the main route of Feeder 7C from the Cassie Hill intersection to Hometown Convenience Store. Additional work was done on the primary circuits of Feeder 6A toward the West End and on Feeder 7A along the St. Peter Mountain Road. On Wednesday, crews will continue to reconstruct primary circuits in Estate Windberg toward the Yvonne Bowski Elementary School. Other crews are also set to energize additional customers in Red Hook from just before Sapphire Resort west to the WAPA Electrical Substation in Nazareth. On St. John, additional customers in Cruz Bay were energized, as well as Grand Bay and the Myra Keating Smith Community Health Center. Crews continued to reconstruct primary circuits in other portions of Cruz Bay and Fish Bay toward the Westin Resort. On St. Croix Tuesday, customers in the areas of Estate Ruby, Bassin Triangle, and Pepper Tree Terrace were restored. Crews planted poles on Feeder 4A in Estate Strawberry toward Barron Spot and on Feeders 1A, 2A, and 9B. Secondary poles were also planted in Frederickstead Town. Traffic flow will be affected across the territory on Wednesday as restoration work continues on all three islands. On St. Thomas, crews will work in Frenchman's Bay from Havenside toward Bolongo Bay, Dono intersection toward Windberg, as well as the Bypass Road, Tabor and Harmony toward Mandal, as well as on St. Peter Mountain Road and in Fortuna. On St. John, crews will work in the Fish Bay area and in the vicinity of the Westin and Keneal Bay resorts. On St. Croix, work will continue in Estate Strawberry toward Barron Spot, Estate Ruby, and Frederickstead Town.
Thanks for that, John. Stick around. Your News to AccuWeather forecast and sports. That's all coming up next. We'll be right back.
Good evening. Hopefully everybody had a good day today. We're going to see some great weather for the next couple of days. Taking a look at our satellite, there's really not much going on, not even a lot as far as cloud coverage, maybe a few light fluffy clouds passing through. Certainly no wet weather, and it's going to stay like that for the next couple of days. So for tonight, a moonlit sky, 76 degrees for our overnight low. St. John tomorrow, 86 degrees, mostly sunny and just nice. That's kind of the key word for this forecast. Is nice. That's how it's going to be. 86 in St. Thomas and St. Croix, 88 degrees, mostly sunny, beautiful conditions. We don't have any marine alerts to tell you about, so if you're planning on swimming or snorkeling or boating, you should have some great conditions. Waves on the Atlantic side 3 to 5 feet, winds out of the east from 10 knots, and the Caribbean side 2 to 4 feet for our waves, and the winds out of the east at 10 to 15 knots. So pretty good conditions there. Taking a look at the next couple of days, it's going to be mostly sunny, mostly nice. On Saturday, we could see a brief stray shower move in. And then Sunday, Monday, that's when we could see an uptick in showers and especially cloud coverage. And that's really going to continue through Tuesday as well. Our highs are staying right around average in the mid-80s, and our lows are staying right about average as well in those upper to mid-70s. Back to you.
Thank you for that. A moonlit night, and she described it as mostly nice. We like to hear that. Thank you for that update. Time for a News to Weather picture there by Cristino Gonzalez, second grader, sending some mostly nice conditions there. Some cloud and smooth seas. Thanks for that. Send us your News to Weather picture to the address on the screen. News 2 via Business Center, 4611 Tutu Park, Suite 300, St. Thomas, Virgin Islands, 00802. Stick around. News 2 Sports comes your way next.
I'm Gary Anthony, and this is News 2 Sports. What are the two greatest words in sports? Well, besides Jets win, how about Game 7? And that's what the 2017 World Series is coming down to, thanks to the Dodgers winning Game 6 last night in their pitchers' duel 3-1. Top of the third, and George Springer, who has had a great series, goes yard off for starter Rich Hill for a 1-0 Astros lead. Moving ahead, bottom 6, and Chris Taylor lashes a double to tie the score at 1. And the crowd goes wild. Then, Dodger shortstop Corey Seager with the long sacrifice fly ties Dodgers now with a 2-1 lead. Bottom 7, still 2-1, and Jock Peterson goes the opposite way. 373 feet for his third homer this series, and a 3-1 Dodgers lead. Bottom 9, 2 out, and Dodger closer Kenley Jansen fans Carlos Beltran with high heat to end the game and to force a Game 7 tonight. Ooh. Here's Dodger skipper Dave Roberts' take on playing a Game 7.
Never been a part of a Game 7. This is when you're a young kid and you're kind of trying to play through all the heroes and the heroics and talking about a Game 7 in the World Series, and here we are. I know that we're happy to be at home, and tonight was very energetic, exciting. I know we love being in front of our fans, and I know we'll be ready to win a baseball game.
Game 7 for all the marbles in what has been a classic World Series. And here's who the Astros and Dodgers are sending to the mound. A pitching rematch of Game 3. Houston goes with Lance McCullers, who got the win in Game 3, and the Dodgers counter with Hugh Darvish, who got shelled in the Game 3 loss. You know what? I like Houston to win on the road in LA and take their first World Series title ever. That's it for sports. Go Houston. Sandy, back to you.
Gary, thanks for that update. We'd like to thank you for joining us for all the latest in news, weather, and sports. I'm Sandra Gumansing. On behalf of all of us, have a wonderful evening. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and YouTube. We'll see you next time.